Good morning. Before we begin the meditation, let's take a moment for preparation through relaxation. So if you'll close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, allow yourself to sink into your seat. Put away all reflections on the past and all projections into the future and just relax in the serenity and the tranquility of the here and now moment. And now, in this more peaceful and present state of awareness, I would like you to picture something with me. I would like you to picture yourself standing on the banks of a stream. It's a very wide stream, a stream so wide it could almost be called a river. It's a crisp, cool day. The sky is a bright blue with just a few fluffy clouds floating by. And you look down at your feet and you see that you're standing in tall green grass. And you would like to feel that grass, its coolness. And so you take off your shoes and you begin to walk through the grass along the banks of this stream. As you go, you notice how the blades of grass tickle the soles of your feet and tickle your very soul itself. You haven't gone very far along the banks of this stream before you see a little boat at the side of the stream. And for some reason, you feel some kind of strange, divine ownership of that boat. So you don't hesitate to walk up to it, push it into the stream, and hop in at the last minute as you drift away from the shore. And for a while, that's all you do is drift. You're content to just sit in the boat and watch the world go by as you pass it by. After a while, though, you decide to make your journey more purposeful. So you reach down into the bottom of the boat, pick up the oars that are lying there, and you begin to row your boat gently down this stream. As you go, you notice how the flow moves you along at a pace that's much more effective and efficient than you could ever achieve under your own power alone. And you begin to realize this is no ordinary stream. This is the flow of God's goodness in my life, of God's grace in my life, of God's guidance in my life. And with each stroke of your oars, you feel yourself taking advantage of that goodness, grace, and guidance. With every stroke of your oar, you feel yourself noticing how you're being divinely guided in life through the intuitive wisdom of other people in your path. With every stroke of your oars, you feel yourself noticing how you're surrounded by divine signs and synchronicities, and how they too are pointing you in a particular direction. With every stroke of your oars, you feel yourself taking advantage of your own intuitive wisdom, your own intuitive guidance, the divine guidance from within. With every stroke of your oars, you feel yourself being guided by God, and you recognize and cooperate with that guidance, rowing your boat down the stream where God would have you go. Take a few moments now to just sense the divine flow in your life. Where is it flowing? Is it leading you toward an experience of divine love and being the love that you are at heart? Is it guiding you toward an experience of divine creativity as the divine creator that you are? Is it guiding you toward someone who needs help, or someone who needs to remember who they are at heart, that they too are divine creators and divine love? Are you being guided to fulfill a soul's mission utilizing the unique talents and gifts that you have been given by God? Take a moment now to just sense the divine flow in your life as it guides you, leads you, directs you, and supports you in a fulfilling, happy, and joyful life. And now, begin to bring your awareness ever so slowly back to this time and this place, but come back with a grateful mind and a thankful heart, knowing that you are indeed always being guided by God to what it is you need. But do not in your mind's eye row your boat over to the side of the stream and climb out, but just keep that feeling of the flow flowing within you. For the flow is always flowing within you, through you, and as you. Slowly now, bring your full awareness back to this time and this place, grateful that you can live your life in the divine flow. And so it is. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be back with you once again. And I know what a few of you are thinking. Once again? When has this fellow ever been here? Well, I have been here several times, but the last time was 8 long years ago. Yeah. So as they say, it's been a minute. I just recently heard that expression, although I looked it up online. That's an old expression, actually, from the 1970s, but it's been a minute. I kind of like it. Anyway, I can't obviously pick up where I left off last time, but what I can do and did do is use this morning's meditation as a way of kind of reintroducing you to what my topic is today and what my focus on life is. And that's something I call living life in the divine flow. And living life in the divine flow, there's a lot of components to it, and I could do a 4-hour workshop on it, but really when you reduce it down to its most fundamental and important concept, it's simply about recognizing and cooperating with divine guidance. We are guided by God in many ways each and every day. And I see that guidance coming in 3 major forms. Number 1, we are guided by the intuitive wisdom of other people. Other people. The fact is, our minds are often closed to certain avenues or certain ways of thinking, or we just don't have the experience in life or the history to have certain knowledge in certain areas. But other people do have that knowledge, and their minds are open, and they are divinely directed by God to come into our path to give us a message. And usually they don't even realize they're doing that, but it happens more than you think. Another way we get divinely guided by God is through divine signs and synchronicities. And I think most of us, at this point in our lives realize that those things that we call coincidences, there may be some that's just a coincidence, but many are not. Many are divine signposts meant to guide us forward, to point us in a particular direction, and that's what those are for. They are not just chance, they are not just happenstance, they are divinely guided signposts to move us forward. The third way that we get divine guidance, the most important way really, is through your own intuitive wisdom that comes from the inside out. Now, I define intuitive wisdom, or just intuition, as your inner divine spirit speaking to you. It is the Spirit of God within you speaking to you. It is the Spirit of God that actually is you speaking to you. Now, you may want to refer to your spirit as your higher self, or your God self, your divine self, your true self. Those of you who study A Course in Miracles may prefer to think of it as the Holy Spirit, which is not necessarily part of you, but certainly been implanted in you by God to guide you forward. And so it really behooves you to pay attention to how is it you believe you're being guided by God, and then to act on that guidance in spite of logic and reason. That's an important one, in spite of logic and reason. And when you do that, when you act on enough divine guidance, life will feel like it's a flow. you feel like you're moving forward in life with amazingly effortless ease, with grace. You find yourself experiencing one minor miracle after another. You end up at the right place at the right time to take advantage of divine opportunities. That's living life in the divine flow. And I liken it, of course, to rowing a boat down a stream. When you act on divine guidance, you are rowing with the flow. But we don't always row with the flow, do we? I spent at least the first half of my life never rowing with the flow, not seeking divine guidance, not acting on it, just making decisions based on my own intellect, on logic and reason or ego or the fear that comes from ego. And it's not that you can't have a fairly successful life doing that. I had destinations I wanted to reach in life, and I rowed really hard and succeeded at that. But two things there. Notice I said rowing really hard. It wasn't with effortless ease. And when I got where I wanted to go, it was fulfilling. But is it fulfilling for us in a lasting, meaningful way? Not really. Not when you've gone somewhere that God never intended you to be. So that raises an important question then, doesn't it? Where does God intend us to be? God only knows. I think we can assume a few things, though, about where we're being divinely guided. It has to do with who we are at heart, at the core of our being. We are individual expressions of the divine. And I believe we are being guided mostly just to experience the truth of who we are, to opportunities to, for one, experience ourselves as divine love. Experiences that will help us more fully demonstrate and be the divine love that we are and experience that from others as well. I think we're being divinely guided to experience opportunities where we are divine creators at heart. I think we're chips off the old creator block, and we are divine creators, and we are guided to opportunities to experience ourselves as divine creators. I also think that we are guided to just help other people in general, but specifically also to help them remember who they are at heart and be the divine creators and the divine love that they are within. And finally, I kind of think that we all have been given a very unique combination of talents and abilities that no one else has, and we might be here on a soul's mission, a life's purpose, to use those talents and abilities the way that nobody else can. We do have, I believe, a life purpose that we're being generally guided towards all our lives. So those are very esoteric and lofty destinations down the stream. But one thing that's been heartening to me in life is that I find that divine guidance also can come in the smallest ways each and every day just to help us get through the day. Just the most mundane aspects of life still are not too small for God to get involved and say, well, do this, do this, do this. Just this is where this is. We can get guidance to get through a day peacefully and prosperously if we are looking for divine guidance in that way. Now, before I go any further, I do want to tell you a story. It's kind of a long story, but I think you'll enjoy it. It's a time when I do believe that I was being guided to fulfill what in hindsight was perhaps a life's purpose. It was guidance that involved all three forms that I talked about. It all occurred within a 1-week period, and it all directed me towards one specific destination. So here's the story. In 2002, I believe it was, I was about 2 chapters into the first book I was writing, which appropriately enough was called Row, Row, Row Your Boat, a guide for living life in the divine flow. So I hadn't finished chapter 2 yet when my wife Carol said to me, hey, Steve, have you ever thought about going to Fun Ed, which is the local adult education center in Dallas, Texas, where we lived? Have you ever thought about going to Fun Ed and taking a class on publishing? Okay. I'll be honest with you. I was not thrilled with her suggestion. It was like, Carol, I'm just now writing the book. I haven't finished it. I don't know if I want to start thinking about publishing. I'm in the creative part of my brain. I don't know if I want to get all left-brained and worried about the details of that. And then I told her, besides that, I think I know how publishing works. You shop for different agents to represent your book. You never find an agent, or if you do find an agent, they can't sell your book, and you don't publish. That's generally how publishing works. You don't publish. Mr. Positivity here. So I was in no hurry to find out that that was the truth, so I completely ignored her decision. I also said to her, and you noticed it's called Fun Ed, by the way, Fun Ed. They do fun things there, like, I don't know, macrame, basket weaving. I don't know what kind of classes they have there, but they don't have a class on publishing, like I knew. So I completely shut her down on that whole idea. Well, about 2 days later, 2 or 3 days later, I'm driving down the highway, and there's a big billboard by the side of the highway advertising a certain company. You only get one guess what it was. Oh, yeah, Fun Ed. Go to funed.com. And I'm thinking, nah, I don't want to do anything fun. I'm writing a book. That's serious business. So, still, God did not get through to me yet. And then, 3 days later, I'm at lunch with a group from my adult class that I used to teach in Dallas. And there was one guy named Larry. He's sitting about 2 chairs down from me in a noisy restaurant. I could hardly hear what anybody was saying. But I did hear this word kept coming up, Fun Ed, blah, 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 Fun Ed. Okay. I'm not too slow, but pretty slow. But that time, when I heard it, I got a kind of an electrical charge go off in my body. That's literally, it was like somebody shaking me saying, Steve, wake up, pay attention, this is important. So I thought, oh, this is important. I can't believe it. Fun Ed again. So I went, got on my chair, talked to Larry, said, hey, Larry, what is it with you and Fun Ed? I heard you mentioning Fun Ed. He said, oh, I'm going to take a class there. I said, really? What fun thing are you going to do? How to make balloon animals or, you know, what? He gave me kind of a nasty look and just said, no, I'm going to take a class called How to Publish a Nonfiction Book. Amazing. I could not believe it. Okay, I'm slow, but I'm not so slow I didn't get that. So, okay, I get it. I've got to go to that class. So I signed up for it, went to the class, and the real miracle is not that I found out how to publish a nonfiction book. It was that I met the person who became the publisher of my book in that class. And I was able to seal the deal before I'd written another couple of chapters. And in hindsight, I got to do what I told Carol I wanted to do, write my book without worrying about publishing or thinking about that. I didn't have to because it had already been accomplished. So quite a miracle for me. So here's some observations about that experience. You notice, you couldn't help but notice, that I'm writing a book about the divine flow and recognizing, cooperating with divine guidance. And what was I doing? Not cooperating, not recognizing, not just completely resisting it. So you got to think, if I'm the expert on it, oh yeah, and I'm focused on it, that's the best way to say it. If I'm focused on that and I'm ignoring it, what's everybody else doing? Well, aren't focused on it, just going through life, you know, not looking for divine guidance. And I went through half my life, like I said, not looking for it at all. And so I didn't see it. But anyway, it's very easy for all of us, no matter who you are, to ignore, to forget, to overlook, to not see divine guidance in your life. But it is there. The other thing that happened in the story, the first thing that happened really was Carol saying to me, have you ever thought about going to Fun Ed, taking a class on publishing? When I knew that this was an important story and I could incorporate it into my book, which I did, I said, I need to know more about this. I said, Carol, why did you mention Fun Ed that day? Specifically, I said, what did you know about Fun Ed that caused you to say that to me? And she said, this is great, I didn't know anything about Fun Ed. I just knew they existed. And it popped into my head and I said it. It just popped into my head and I said it. That is a very good example of how divine guidance can work with the thought that pops into your head. You know, so, and she had no reason not to say it because she didn't have the same inhibitions that I did about it. So good for Carol. The second thing that happened in that story is I saw that billboard that said Fun Ed. Now, one thing about that is that I have found through the workshops I used to do, many, many people have told me the divine signs they get in life are actual signs. They are printed words on a poster, on a bumper sticker, on a T-shirt. One lady I know actually got what she needed, and it was very specific, in a flashing marquee by the side of the highway. She was saying, oh, what should I do? Well, do this. It was incredible stories, which I don't have time to go into. But signs can be actual signs. Usually there's synchronicities, and we call them signs. Like when Larry said he was taking a class on fun ed, obviously that's very synchronistic for this whole week in my life. But what's important about that part is my reaction to hearing the fun ed was a little alarm clock going off in my body. You know, a lot of intuitive guidance we get from the inside out is pretty subtle, and a lot of it is bodily sensations, hair rising on the back of your neck, goosebumps that you get. And the reason is because a lot of us are in the same boat I am. If you're not really mentally resistant to an idea, if you don't really want to hear what God thinks because you think God's going to have you do something you don't want to do, you might just be too busy in your mind, period, just monkey mind. It's hard for you to get any guidance in your head if you're just thinking about this, and this, and just too overly mentally active. But your body, it's always right there and accessible to your spirit. So it can shake you, it can chill you, whatever it does. It can communicate with you in that way, at least to kind of wake you up. There is a form of bodily sensation. I almost hesitate to put it in that category, but it doesn't fit the mental category either. It would be a feeling, but a feeling of rightness. It just feels right. This feels right. And for me, I've kind of given it a name. I call it a free-flowing feeling of forward movement. Okay. I don't know why. I don't know why I did that. Easy for me to say, but it is actually easy. Free-flowing feeling of forward movement. But what it is this. Let's say there's two paths that I'm presented to take, and I really don't know which is best. I will take the time to imagine doing one. I mean, I'll imagine I'm doing it. I'm doing that activity, whatever it is, I'm going down that path. And then I'll imagine the other one. And generally, one will feel more like a flow. That is, one, I can picture myself doing it. I feel its ease and grace. This is happening. And the other one won't feel bad or negative or scary, but it'll have a kind of a dead feeling to it, kind of a so I don't go with a I said, oh, yeah, this one feels a little better. And I found myself, sometimes people say, what do you think we should do? I'll do my thing. I say, well, I think we should do this. Wrong word. Why am I saying think? Thinking has absolutely nothing to do with it. I feel the process and I feel the flow, and I said, this one feels better. It's just a feeling of rightness, but a little more specific. So that's how I respond to the flow. Here's some other ways that you get guidance from within. Okay, we've talked about one already. A thought that suddenly pops into your head. I like that one. That's usually pretty darn clear. And we've all actually had that in little ways. Call Sally. Have you ever called somebody, just contact this person, you didn't know why, and had a good result? This is more rare, but Chris told me he had an experience like this one. An image or a vision that appears in your mind, or a vision that appears in front of you somehow, that's symbolic, and you have to decide, what is that? That happens sometimes. You know this one, and you've probably had it, many of you, a particularly vivid dream that you have had that turned out to be really, really important to act on that. I've had a couple of those. This one is, again, it's kind of a feeling, but not, I don't know how to describe it, but it's just the knowing. You know with a capital K this is the right thing to do. It's a little bit beyond a feeling of rightness. It's just even more sure than that. The knowing, an inexplicable and unshifting sense of surety. And then there is this one. You hear this a lot. And this is the most famous one, really. The still small voice. The still small voice that you seem to hear from within. Now, you know why we call that a voice? There are, not to say that you can't actually hear something. And plenty of people have had experiences where they hear a voice around them, behind them, a really voice coming at them. Mostly, though, what it is a thought that occurs to you, but it is so succinct, so clear, and it seemed to be directed at you rather than coming from you, you tend to call it a voice. It's much more clear and succinct than a thought. Thoughts can sometimes be a little mushy. It's more like a voice, but is it really? It might just be a thought. I've had, forgive me if I go over a couple minutes here, but I'll tell you one brief experience I had with the still small voice. If this was a workshop, we'd get to hear everybody's thing, but one time I was about 36 years old. I was facing a really big decision, a life-changing decision to make in my life. And I actually, even though I lived in Dallas, I loved Arizona, and I came out to Arizona for 2 weeks on a 2-week soul-searching mission of myself. First place I went was Tucson, and I drove up Mount Lemmon. I got on and found a big rock on the top of Mount Lemmon, climbed up on that rock, and I looked up the sky and said, "Oh, God, what should I do? What should I do?" And I got the still small voice, very specific answer. I said, "Okay." I'm not going to say what it is because it was kind of a personal time. But I got the still small voice answer. I said, "Wow, okay, wow, that's all right." Well, I'm driving down the highway. I'm driving down the road, leaving Mount Lemmon. And I'm thinking about what this voice said, and I'm thinking, I didn't really care for that answer. Really? Was that God? I don't know. Would God say that? I don't know about that. Maybe that's something else. I'm not so sure what that was. But here's the thing. I'm headed to Sedona. Oh, Sedona. That's where you really get in touch with spirit. That's the high spiritual point in Arizona. Let's go there. I'll get the answer there for sure. So I drive to Sedona. First place I came to was Oak Creek. I went down to Oak Creek, and I found a big rock in the middle of the stream, sitting there, and it flows all around me. And I look up at the sky and say, "Oh, God, what should I do?" And I got the still small voice. And it said, "I already told you." Okay. A little embarrassing. Just checking. So that's my still small voice experience. But what I want to wind up with today in concluding a very important question that everybody asks, even with all that, how do you really know if the sensation you're having is divine guidance or something else? Something, maybe a burrito you had for lunch. More poetically, how do you know if that still small voice is the voice of God, or the voice of your ego, or the voice of parental conditioning when you were a child, or the voice of other influential people or institutions in your life? How do you know? Well, I wish there was a way to know with 100% definitive certainty this is the voice of God. Kind of hard to know that. Sometimes you do, but often you don't. But I did figure out a question you can ask yourself that helps answer that question. The question is this, to ask yourself, I think I'm getting some guidance here. Does the guidance I am receiving fit the nature of my inner divine spirit? Does the guidance I'm receiving fit the nature of my inner divine spirit? In other words, your spirit has a nature to it. It's divine. It's going to be love. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. And the guidance should be something that kind of entity within you, it's the you, but it would make sense that it would say something like that. If it doesn't fit, it may not be divine guidance. So what I've come up with, and there's more than this, I know, you'll think of your own, but here are 4 aspects of our divine nature that would affect the kind of guidance you would receive. Number 1, your spirit is one with all. Your spirit is one with everything and one with all. In spirit, there is no place where you end and the person sitting next to you begins. In spirit, we're all part of one universal whole. So what does that mean guidance-wise? It means that guidance will never come at the expense of another person. The other person, people in your life will never be diminished or harmed in any way by guidance. Divine guidance is always in the best interest of everyone. Always. At least as far as you can tell. And it may be that you're benefiting, but you see that nobody else is being harmed in any way. That's okay too. But it's in the best interest of everyone. 2, your spirit is all-knowing, That doesn't mean that your spirit is all it is that is God. But you know what? It's intimately connected to divine mind. And if there's something that needs to be known, it can know it, and it will tell you what that is. How that affects guidance is this way. Let's say there's a destination that your spirit is heading you towards, and it tells you to take this next step, but you don't do it. What's it going to do? It's just going to suggest another step. Your spirit sees an almost unlimited, infinite number of ways for you to get where it wants you to go, not just one way. It can suggest this step, and you can miss it, It'll suggest another step, and you miss it. Suggest another step, you miss it. It'll just keep doing that. It's persistent, but it sees so many ways for you to achieve what needs to be achieved that it's never insistent. Insistent would be demanding, like, oh, you got to do this. You got to do this right now, Steve. If you don't do it, there's no other way around it. No, it just keeps making gentle suggestions and is very patient, infinitely patient. Your guidance will be persistent and patient. It's the same as a GPS in your car, isn't it? When's the last time the GPS in your car started yelling at you? Said, what are you doing? You missed the turn. Oh, no. Now there's no way to get there from here. You're up the creek without a paddle. You're stuck, mister. That's it. No, it just keeps redirecting you. And even if you delay so long that the destination it was heading for you is no longer a viable destination or goal, it'll just come up with a similar one and then start guiding you towards that. So, divine guidance is persistent and patient, but not insistent or demanding. It sees lots of ways to accomplish things. This is a short one here. Your spirit is always positive. It's a positive nature. It is a positive energy. It's just much more likely to say, do this, instead of, don't do that. Oh, look out, don't do that. No, it's more like, just do this, do this. And finally, and this was related, you'll see this come back into play here. Your spirit is indestructible and eternal. Of course, your spirit cannot be harmed. It cannot cease to exist. And as a result, it knows nothing of fear. Nothing of fear. All it really knows is the peace that passes all understanding. And I believe it also knows joy, the joy of being alive and in the world. So, joy aside, at a minimum, any guidance you're going to get is going to have an underlying feeling of peace about it, an underlying feeling of well-being about it. And this is what's important. This is even if you're in immediate physical danger. Even if you're in immediate physical danger, you will get let's say, a still small voice, and it may not be too small. But it may be strong. It may be more powerful, more assertive or forceful. But what it will not be is fearful. Fear will not be infused with that message. It'll be a positive do step that is stronger than maybe a quieter voice. And I had two examples of that I was at a workshop, 2 different workshops, and I asked some people when I heard about their experiences, I said, I want to check this out. One said they got a strong voice that said, get off the road now. The other person had a strong voice when they were down in Colorado that said, leave the river now. I don't know what was around the bend of the road, but I do know that the other woman was saved from a flash flood. And in talking to her about it, and talking to the gentleman about it, I said, well, did you feel apprehensive? Was there fear? Was it lookout or a sense of foreboding? They said, no. It was a very strong thought, though, very, very assertive and forceful, but it was just do this, and it just felt so right. There was just no questioning it. Just that's what I was going to do, and I didn't really think a whole lot about it. So is there, in conclusion here, a way to know with 100% certainty that you're receiving divine guidance? Not really. But if that guidance is peaceful, if it's positive, if it's persistent and patient, in the best interest of all, hey, that's a pretty good sign that you're receiving divine guidance. May you cooperate with that guidance. May you take the step it's asking you to take. Make the decisions asking you to make. And if you do that, I think your life will be blessed. You'll feel like you're in the flow, the divine flow of life. Thank you.